This is Rick Passek, Flyfish Fanatic, and welcome to another episode of On the Bench with Fishing on the Fly. Today we're going to tie a little buzzer Chironomid style pattern. This one I found is very successful late season. It's a little bit more drab on the colors, and I just found that later in the season, this particular Chironomid or buzzer pattern, because that's what it actually is, it's a buzzer pattern, is very successful. So let's stop playing around and get time. So, in the vise, we're going to start with a Hens BL 550 clink hammer hook. Use whatever Chironomid hook that you guys like. I really, really like the 550 and the 554 from Hens. I find them really strong, good shape, super sharp. So, for the thread, we're going to be using some Simplify Nanosilk in copper. For the body, we're going to be using some Uni-Flexx Stretch Flex in Camel. So it's kind of this kind of a browny red kind of color. Actually, almost the same color as my shirt that I'm wearing. For the rib, we're going to be using some small vinyl rib, just the black, but in the small. And then for the cheeks, we'll be using some Simplify bright orange Goose Biots. Hopefully, I don't run out of thread. We will find out. But yeah, like I said, I find this one very good for late season, late summer. So just a little bit of wax on my thread just to make sure she sticks. Come on up. All the way. Don't have to be too particular with whether you got touching wraps or not, because this is all going to get covered. It's not a thread-based pattern. So a lot of the Chironomids we tie are thread-based, but like the thread is the body, but in this case it's not. So it's going to go up through about there, and I'm going to take my black vinyl rib and just catch that in. Come back just a bit. That's where I want my body to stop, and I'm just going to stretch it a little bit. This stuff doesn't stretch great, so you got to be a little bit careful. Otherwise, you will break it, especially if it's old. And this stuff, what I'm using, is a bit old, so it can get a bit brittle. Again, about where the body's going to stop. Take my flex. Just get it in there. Just catch that just by the tip, and then really give that a good stretch. This stuff can stretch really well, so just give it a really good stretch. Bring it right down to right around that corner to where that. And then again, I can just go up in open turns. Doesn't really matter that much. And I'm just going to give it a little bit of a one or two turn whip finish here. And the only reason I do that is because for me, I've got big clunky hands, and quite often I'll bump, and I don't want to knock it off. So going towards you, I'm just going to start with fairly stretched, and I'm going to leave a gap in between each segment here for that vinyl rib. And then I'm going to back off a little bit as I come up on my how much I'm stretching. I want this to kind of almost thicken as I come forward. Just take your time. You want it decently segmented. Come on up. Tie that off. Get that tie off. Then good stretch and cut it, and it'll suck back in. Make sure that's tied off really well, otherwise it'll suck back in and undo on you. So I'm just going to come back over top. Same thing now towards you. I'm going to wrap toward the same direction. Don't want to do now. I'm going to have to use my magnifier here just because I'm half blind, and I'm just going to go in between each of those segments that it left there. over there, come around, come on back. Really tied off really well. Give that a turn. Cut that off. So there is the body portion. Now I'm just going to take my hook and just change it to a little bit flatter. Just makes it this portion easier. You don't have to. I just find it makes it a little bit easier. So now I'm going to take that Camel and put it back on. I could have left it on, but I find sometimes it can get in the bit in the way, so I just end up taking it off. Catch that in, give it a stretch, bring it back to about there. And just keep that out of your way. I just find that it can get a little bit in the way, so that's why I cut it off. But like I said, if you feel like you don't need to, that's fine. So just tie that off a little bit. Now I'm going to leave it about there. I'm going to take 2 Goose Biots of this orange from Semperfly. And I'm going to tie these in by the tip. You see how they're curved? There's an inside and outside. I want the inside facing out. And I want these on the side slash bottom of the thorax section. So you'll see when I tie in your side when I turn it back over. For now, I have to turn it so I can see. But when I turn it back over, you'll see where it's supposed to be. Like I said, I kind of want this on the side, but on the bottom of the side. Come on, there you go. And then just again, come back. So now you can see roughly where that's tied in. Okay, and then I'm just going to come back forward here, leave my thread there, take my Uni-Stretch again, and just give that create a bit of a thorax here. You can make this as big or as small as you like, as thick as you like. I like having it a little bit thicker. Giving it a really good stretch as I come forward there. Just making sure that's nicely tied in. Again, really good stretch. Cut that off. And then I'm going to bring both my biots forward and up. You see how I've got them coming up? So I'm going to forward and up. And then just a loose wrap. So I get it where I want it. And then give it a good turn. See how that is. My side's good. Your side's not. Undo it. Just going to move that down just a slight bit. Too much. That's better. Just going to go back over it because I think I may have just cut this a bit. Now I'm just going to just jiggle these back and forth until they break off. I'm going to take my whip finishing tool, give this a bit of a whip finish. And then your finishing on this, it's up to you. You can do UV resin, you can do head cement, Sally Hansen's, whatever you like. If you're going to do a head cement or a Sally's, make sure you do 2 coats. If you're doing a UV, make sure that it's make sure that the UV is not too thick on here. I'm going to actually do Gulf Thin Mint on here. You don't want this too thick, just because, right? You don't want to increase this body size. So I always start off with the head thorax area first. just making sure, because I want to make sure that these goose biots are protected. So I'm just going to give that a bit of a turn. You want that football shape. You see that nice football shape that it's creating? Just a little bit of a, and I'm just being picky, but just a little bit of that. There we go. That resin. I'll put another coat on that just to make sure. Just didn't like how it was sitting there. So it's one. Now I'll then just give my body just a little tiny bit on the body. Turn it a little bit on the body. And then I'm going to get a little bit more on this here just to fix up what I just kind of made a mess of, but it should fix quite nice once I'm done here. I'm going to take my bodkin, just spread this along the body here. Trying to keep it even and thin. And then just give it a bit of a turn just to make sure it's staying where you want it, and then just zap it with your light. This is giving it a kind of a coppery gold kind of brown color once you've hit it with UV. I found I'll show you guys after this. I've done it with the Sally Hansen's and darkened it a bit. So depending what effect you want, if you want it a bit darker, then I'll be use the Sally's or something like it. So there's your finished one. Now I'll just show you in comparison how dark, and I don't have as much of a football because I just use Sally's, right? So I don't have as much of a football head on this one. But you see how this one's a little darker? Just see if I can focus a bit better there. Maybe I can even zoom a bit for you. No, that's it. So this one's a little bit darker, right? But that's just because of the Sally's changes it a bit. So, alrighty, like I said, this is a great uh, later season, summer into early fall pattern. I've done very well with it, and I don't know why, but this camel color is just it's really what helps make it stick out. I've tried other brands of the roughly the same color, and it's just not the same. It's this one here that really helps make this stand out. So, alrighty, hope you guys enjoyed that, and thanks for tuning in to another edition of On the Bench with Fishing on the Fly. Bye lines, everybody.